We have, well, it has a name. Let's do that.
That makes it easy.
Leslie Phelps.
Leslie in the house tonight.
Is Leslie Phelps in the house? That's why she wrote her name on it.
That's right, but we'll get it to her somehow. Okay. Next.
All right, the Naples Soap Company gift box. Mix them up. Oh, here. Mix them up.
Are you ready? Okay, first one out of the pot. Here we go. 6, 4, 9, 3, 3, 3. Woo! Come on up. All right, do we have the gifts off the table?
Yeah, they're right.
Thank you.
Oh, you were kidding. Did you keep the number? Boo! No soup for you.
Okay, once again.
Wait.
Wait, you got it. Oh, yay.
Woo! The winner of the Naples Soap.
Angie.
Round of applause for Angie supporting FSA. Okay. And now, from the barrel of books, the Mount Dora gift certificate. They donated to us a $15 gift certificate and a book.
Here we go. Got a mic? I can use it. Okay. The big number is 650021. Who got it? Nah? Going. Nobody? They left? Okay. Too bad, too sad.
Read the number one more time.
I'll read it one more time. Y'all got to be quick. 650021. You got a match? Going once? Going twice? Going chicken soup with rice? Awesome!
Woo! Barrel of books. Let me give this. Thank you. Here, mix it up in there. Next, we have this barrel of FSA goodies, some mugs, all the pins, some legacy pins, and you get to take home Donald Davis, one of our amazing tellers and CD.
Here's what we've got. Folks, get your tickets out. 650141. 650141. Do we got some excitement over there? Do we got a winner? Okay, make yourself excited so we know you're.
We got a winner! Thank you. Thank you. All right. We have a big prize coming up. A festival ticket to Jonesboro, the National Storytelling Festival in Jonesboro, Tennessee, and some Jonesboro paraphernalia. Okay. And somebody even donated $1. Maybe they wrote their name on it. It's right by the concession stand. Okay. Okay. Hang on to that for me.
You shake it. Oh, shake it, drum roll, Here we come.
Oh, there's a name.
Read it. Let's see what this name is. This name is Mark Muncie, who performed at the Fringe last night. Hey.
He's not here. That's why Rosie.
Okay, Mark is not here, but we will be contacting him for this because he wrote his name on it. We can't just put it back in the pot. All right, awesome, Mark.
All right. Let me grab the mic.
Yes, sir.
Now, the big prize. The Florida Festival Package. 1 full festival pass. And we're going to mix it up for us.
Oh, yeah, I've got to
Mix it up, mix it up.
one's got
Plus a 2-night stay at Lakeside Inn.
Here it comes, folks. 3, 4, 0, 3, 2, 7. One more time.
Come on over to the registration desk after, and we'll give you the envelope. All right, a round of applause. Oh, thank you. I forgot. Somebody left something. It's apparently somebody's 70th birthday today. Don Bone, are you in the house? Thanks for celebrating your birthday with us. Make it extra special. Dan Bone, everyone.
We also have another birthday in the house, but she'll kill me.
Okay.
Kathy Canary.
Oh, okay. You want to announce it?
Okay, she'll probably never speak to me again. But we have another birthday in the house. She was one of the coaches for Youthful Voices, and that is Kathy Canary.
All right. So, thank you for that general intermission. Now, I want you to remember to turn off your cell phones if you turn them back on during the intermission. And are you ready for the featured tellers tonight? Okay, I need a little more energy for our featured tellers. Ah, there you go. Our MC tonight, the one guiding you through this wonderful tale, will be our champion liar, our Florida storyteller, our new board member, Pat Neese.
Well, actually, I wasn't the champion liar this year, so my daughter will be happy. Because when I first called her and told her I won, she said, "I cannot wait to tell my friends." She's the one who went through middle school and says, "Can't you just be normal?" I guess I couldn't. Anyway, we're going to move this along. My name is Pat Neese. I'm delighted to be here. Our first teller and I go way back. We were just talking about that. I knew Mitch back when I knew more than my phone. You know, do you remember those days when you were smarter than your phone? Yeah. And it was my second time at Story Camp, and Mitch was president. That was way back. We wrote in stone, I think. Anyway, he did one of the stories he's going to do for you tonight. I am so excited to have him here. Now, I did ask them to give me some advice. I said, I want to hear from you the best advice or the worst advice you ever had. And Mitch, well, it took him 30 minutes to tell me, and I'm going to make it real short. He said about 20 years ago, he took up cycling again on a borrowed Huffy bike with coaster brakes. And he rode around town 3 miles, 4 miles, and one of his friends said, "Hey, you're doing good. You ought to do that, what did he call it? The 100 horrible mile bike ride in Claremont." Now, Claremont's got more hills than any place else in Florida, and I think they're higher than Mount Dora. So, what did Mitch do? He thought, well, that's a good idea. I'll do it. On his Huffy bike with the coaster brakes. So, It's only been riding, about 3 weeks, and he goes to Claremont, shows up there, and they're ready for this 100-mile horrible ride. And there are people there in their spandex and their $5,000-$6,000 bicycles. And they kind of look at Mitch. Well, anyway, make a long story short, because it was a long story. I said, well, did you do it? He said, well, sort of. He said, I would walk the bike up the hill and ride down. Walk the bike up the hill, ride down. But I'm here to tell you that, Mitch, you're no longer riding that Huffy bike, are you? No. And I think he's got some spandex, yeah. And it has, he now, if you watch him on Facebook or whatever he's out on, he's posting pictures of where he's cycling. And I know he's gone more than 100 miles. Welcome to the stage, Mitch O'Rear.
Wiley and his ma lived on the edge of a great big swamp. And every morning, Wiley's ma would come out of the cabin and she'd call to him, Wiley! Yeah, Ma? Wiley, don't you go into the swamp today? No, Ma, I won't. And Wiley, yeah, Ma. Tell me, why aren't you going into the swamp today? 'Cause, Ma, right when I get to the squishiest, ooshiest, gushiest, mushiest, mushiest part, something will tap me on the shoulders and it'll be the hairy man and he'll eat me all up. That's why I shouldn't go to the swamp today, Ma. That's right, Wiley. That old hairy man, he ate your paw up yesterday, and I got too much work to be done around here, and I can't spare you, so don't you go into the swamp. No, Ma, I promise. Scout's honor. Wiley. Yeah, Ma. You're not a scout. I know, Ma, but I promise anyway. All right, Wiley. So she turned around and she went into the cabin, and when he was absolutely positively sure she was nowhere in sight, he began to laugh and grin and smile. Hee, Ma, I lied. Wiley stood at the edge of the swamp. It was cold, it was dark, it was wet. There were snakes hanging in the trees, alligators crawling everywhere. It stunk. It was a nice swamp. Wiley decided to enter. Squish, squash, squish, squash, squish, 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 squish. Wiley looked around and saw that he was in the squishiest, ooshiest, gushiest, smushiest part, when something tapped. How you doing, Wiley? And oh, poor old Wiley, he was so scared to death. He said, to tell you the truth, I've been lots better. Wiley, you know what I do to people who come in my swamp and wake me up? Oh, I have a feeling I do. I eat them all up. That was the feeling I had. And Wiley went straight up a tree. Well, you see, hairy men, they can't climb. And so that hairy man, he went round and round that tree, and he said, Wiley, come on down. And Wiley looked at that old hairy man with his big, sharp claws and his gleaming white teeth and his red eyeballs rolling around in his head, and he said, Wiley, you come on down, and I won't hurt a hair on your head. Do you promise? Uh-huh. So Wiley climbed down that tree, and Wiley, I lied. Well, Wiley went running through that swamp as quickly as he could with the hairy man right behind him, and all of a sudden Wiley got to the end of the swamp, and the hairy man grabbed onto Wiley's shirt. But he was no longer in it. No, he was running around the swamp just as quickly as he could. I'm never going to the swamp again. I'm never going to the swamp again. I'm never going to the swamp again. And when he got home, he was so happy to be alive that he washed the windows, painted the house, put a new roof on it, planted the fields, all in 10 minutes. And when his ma came out, she saw all the work that Wiley had done, and she said, Wiley, you've been such a good little boy. And then she looked down and she saw that Wiley had swamp goo on his shoes. And she knew he'd been in that swamp and he wasn't supposed to, and so she decided to teach him a lesson he would never forget. Wiley, yeah, Ma, would you do me a little favor? Sure, Ma, anything. Would you take this jar of strawberry jam to your grandma for me? Yeah, Ma. And take the shortcut through the graveyard. But you said the hairy man was in there and he'd eat me all up. I know, buddy, but there's one thing I forgot to tell you. There's one thing that old hairy man's afraid of. Oh, really, Ma? What's that? Pigs. Run that by me one more time. Pigs, Wiley, pigs. If he catches a whiff of one, he runs the other way. But, Ma, yes, Wiley, we ain't got no pigs. I know, Wiley. Run along. So there was Wiley, back at the edge of the swamp. Squish, squash, squish, squash, squish, 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 squish. Wiley saw that he was in the squishiest, ushiest, gushiest, mushiest, mushiest part. Squish, squash, squish, squash, clunk, clunk. Wiley looked down and saw that the hairy man was underneath his feet. Uh-oh. And the hairy man began to call Wiley's name. Wiley! I got you this time, Wiley. And that poor old Wiley, he was scared to death, and the hairy man started to rear back and take a big old bite out of Wiley when all of a sudden he stopped. I smell bacon. I smell pork. I smell ham, and in the far distance, Wiley and the hairy man both could hear. They saw the greatest, fattest, pinkest pig running its great fat pink pig's letters and headed right for them, and he said, Wiley, I'll catch you later, and he took off. Well, Wiley went running to his ma as quickly as he could, and guess what? She was waiting for him. She had in one hand the biggest, meanest, ugliest, hardest-looking paddle that Wiley had ever seen in his whole life. Ma, can I come out of the swamp now, please? Sure, Wiley, come on. You aren't going to spank me, are you? You wouldn't lie, would you? So Wiley came out of the swamp, and just as he did, Wiley, I lied. Well, Wiley got a spanking that could be heard all over the swamp, but I tell you what, he never, ever went into the swamp again, and his bottom hurt so badly he didn't sit down either. And that's the story of Wiley and the hairy man. You'll be glad you've already had dinner. Every Saturday night, there was an old woman, and she always made herself a great big old pot of beef stew. But on this particular Saturday night, she forgot to go get the meat for her soup for her supper. And when she looked at her watch and saw that it was nearly 5 o'clock, she put on her hat and her coat and she said, oh my goodness. And down the road, along the way, kept saying, I need some meat for my soup for my supper. I need some meat for my soup for my supper. I need some meat for my soup for my supper. Yum, yum, yummy. By the time that she got to the grocery store, there was a big sign in the doorway that said, closed. You think that stopped the old lady? No, she knocked on the door. Boom, boom, boom. I need some meat for my soup for my supper. She waited for the grocer to answer, but he didn't, and so she knocked a little louder. Boom, boom, boom. I need some meat for my soup for my supper. Finally, she knocked as loudly as she could. Boom, 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 boom. I need some meat for my soup for my supper. Finally, the old grocer woke up and said, "Lady, we're closed." And boom, ow, closed the door on her nose. Well, the old lady, she turned around and she kept saying to herself, "I need some meat for my soup for my supper. I need some meat for my soup for my supper. I need some meat for my soup for my supper. Yum, yum, yummy." Well, she decided to take the shortcut home through the graveyard. And by the time she got there, it was so dark, she could hardly see the nose on front of her face. As a matter of fact, it was so dark, she couldn't see where she was going at all. And she fell on the ground, and her glasses were knocked off. And so she had to feel around on the ground, see if she could find them. And her hand brushed over something that was sticking out of the ground. She squeezed it, and it was all soft and squishy and hairy. And she pulled it out of the ground. She found her glasses, and there, by the light of the moon, she could see what she had. It was a big, fat, hairy toe from somebody's foot. And she held it up and she said, "Oh, some meat for my soup for my supper." And so she put that big, fat, hairy toe from somebody's foot inside her pocket. And she went home. She pulled out her pots and pans. She washed her potatoes and vegetables. She put them in the pot and she got it all bubbly. And then that old lady, she reached inside her pocket and she pulled out that big, fat, hairy toe from somebody's foot. And she went over to the sink and she turned it on and she scrubbed that toe really good. She scraped off the green slime. She wiped away the yellow pus. And she even cleaned out from underneath the toenail. And then she took that big, fat, hairy toe from somebody's foot and she threw it in her soup and she cooked it down. It was all thick and rich and bubbly. Yum, yum, yummy. And then the old lady, she got herself a bowl of soup. She ate the first bowl and the second and the third. And there, in the bottom of the bowl of that third bowl of soup, was that big, fat, hairy toe from somebody's foot. And she put it on her spoon and she ate it. She had to chew a long time. It was real tough. Yum, yum, yummy. Well, that old lady, she washed her pots and pans, locked her doors and windows, and she went to sleep. But at 12 o'clock midnight, when that old lady was sound asleep, she heard outside her window. And she said to herself, "Uh-oh." And she heard it a few minutes later. Uh-oh. And then it got louder. And that little old lady, she was so scared. She got under the carpet and she crawled all the way and got in the closet and closed the closet door just as whatever it was came inside. Who's got my hairy toe? Whoa, 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 whoa. Who's got my hairy toe? Whoa, 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 whoa. And it got closer and closer and closer until all of a sudden it was right outside the closet door. And the little old lady said to herself, "Uh-oh." She was so scared she held her breath for an hour. And then the sounds stopped. Oh, I think it went away. And so she placed her ear to the door. "I don't hear anything. No, no, no. I do believe it went away." And so she placed her hand on the doorknob. And she turned the doorknob real slow. And And she opened the door a little bit and she stuck her nose out. And that's the story of the hairy toe.
And it doesn't matter how many times I hear it, I still jump. Thank you, Mitch. Well, Alton Chung, I sent him, I said, hey, good advice, bad advice you've ever gotten? And he told me this. He said, well, I was in Jonesboro, and a couple stopped me and asked me if I was a storyteller. And I kind of hesitated, and I said, yes, I am. And they said, well, you need to get hold of Robert and Nancy. Robert and Nancy. He didn't know who Robert and Nancy were. Ethnotech, for you people that are, anyway, they're a fabulous couple out in California, and they perform together, and they are fabulous. Well, he learned about Robert and Nancy and Ethnotech. He asked if he could be in the apprentice program they have. It's a wonderful program. And they said, yeah. And so not only did he become part of the program, but they became his mentors. And he said, I quote, that he continues to chop wood and carry water for them to this day. Hope you all know what that means. But then he had some bad advice. He said, yeah, I've gotten some bad advice. He said, that was real good advice. That did me good. Bad advice. Trust me. This won't hurt. Women like that. Or women like that. I'm not sure which way that went. It's not a rule, more like a guideline. And crypto is safe. So please help me with the wonderful good luck and the good advice and bad advice, Alton Chung. Yay!
Uchinanchu is a Okinawan word meaning person from Okinawa. Encompasses everything there is about being Okinawan. Okinawa is part of the Ryukyu Islands, about 350 miles southwest of the main islands of Japan. Been part of Japan for maybe 150 years. The last great battle of World War II was fought on Okinawa. This 3-month-long battle would claim the lives of almost 240,000 Americans, Japanese, and Okinawans. Leave the island a vast field of mud, decay, and maggots. Okinawan people totally dependent upon U.S. military to survive. Long time ago, a small black-skinned variety of pig was introduced to Okinawa. Pig's very important to Okinawan culture and diet. We eat all parts of the pig. Plenty pig means that you're rich, and huro, the pigsty, produces fertilizer for the fields. Before the war, there's 140,000 pigs in Okinawa. After the war, maybe about 2,000, most of them dying from disease. When the Uchi-Nanchu people in Hawaii found out what was going on in Okinawa, everyone wanted to help. And one of the people who wanted to help was a man by the name of Yasuo Uezu. Hi, Sai. My name is Yasuo Uezu. I second generation Kibe. It means I was born in Hawaii, but I was educated in Okinawa. Now, I left Hawaii with my parents when I was about 3 years old, before the war. I came back when I was 18. Many Okinawan people settled in Kalihi Valley and raised pigs. So I was able to find a job at one of these pig farms. We had one time almost 25,000 pigs in Kalihi Valley. You always know when you came close because the aroma. Now, we used to get slop to feed the pigs from military bases like Pearl Harbor. The boss would drive the truck and I tag along. And it was the same thing, like on that particular Sunday, December 7th, 1941. About 6 o'clock in the morning, we showed up and we finished loading the truck full of slop. And all of a sudden, bombs started falling all around us. We were at war. We thought we were going to die. The planes are flying so close we could see the red bandana of the rising sun of Japan on the heads of the pilots as they go flying by. The truck got shot up full of holes, but we weren't hurt. But after that, plenty things changed. Yeah? All the Japanese schools, all the Japanese shrines, all closed. Yeah? Anything with Japanese writing on was painted over. And some guys got even shipped off to places like Sand Island, Honouliuli, held there. Some even got shipped off to the mainland for internment camps. Hard times. Huh? Well, the war ended, and by that time I had a small poultry business, and I'd gotten married and had 2 small kids. But it was almost like 6 years before I heard anything from my parents in Okinawa. Well, most people didn't know what was happening on Okinawa. The first thing people heard was when letters from a guy named Taro Higa. He was with the military intelligence service on Okinawa. His letters home were published in the local newspaper. June 15th, 1945. No pigs in the furo. No pigs in the pigsty. When the Okinawan people, the Uchi-Nanchu people in Hawaii found out what was going on, everyone gathered together, formed relief associations. They send clothing, basic necessities, school supplies, all to Okinawa. Some people thought, why should we go send things to Okinawa? Japan didn't lose the war. No. So a lot of people got together and they formed the Hawaii United Okinawa Relief Association. Now, one of the guys named Kamesuke Kazu, founder of the Kyoto Finance Group, thought, if we can get pigs and send pigs to Okinawa, maybe we can rebuild the pig industry, rebuild the center of Okinawan culture and diet. So like I said, they formed this relief association and they started soliciting donations. Some people said, no, don't have to. But, they kept their eye on the prize. Send pigs to Okinawa. A guy named Yoshiro Yamashiro, he's a veterinarian. He was sent to go, and he thought he could buy pigs, They solicited all these donations from all these people, like people from Okinawans donated, and Japanese people donated, and even Haoles, Caucasian donated, Hawaiian people, a lot of people donated. They raised almost $50,000. It's about $500,000 in today's dollars. Well, they said, if we can get pigs, we go send them. So they sent Yamashiro to Omaha, Nebraska, to go buy pigs. He looked at the pigs. He thought, we need, looking at the breeds that could maybe live in tropical Okinawa, can survive. And he looked at the Chester White breed, big pigs, plenty body fat. They thought, good, because, be very nutritious to the people. So he selected 550 pigs, 75% female, 25% male. Now, how are we going to get the pigs over there? See, a lot of people, after the war, nobody had any money. Entire families would pool their money, donate, have just enough to buy maybe one pig. They scrimp, they save, and they donate again. Over and over and over. Like I said, people just sacrifice so much to get these pigs. So he bought the pigs, and now he thought, how are we going to get them from the United States all the way to Okinawa? So Kamesuke Kazu, Yoshiro Yamashiro, they're tearing out their hairs. How are we going to do this? They start asking everybody. Finally, they sent a telegram to the Pentagon. April 24th, 1948. Have secured fundings to purchase 550 hogs. Request immediate transport from West Coast Port. May 16th, General Douglas MacArthur himself authorized the free transport of pigs from the West Coast. Okay, now we got transportation. Now we got to figure out who's going to take care of the pigs on the trolley. Everybody want to be part of the pig brigade, yeah? But everybody, they had to know something about raising pigs. So, Shohei Miyasato, businessman, he was selected to be spokesperson for the group. Genbi Tonaki had a PhD in agricultural science, so he had to go. Yoshiro Yamashiro, he's the veterinarian, he has to go. Then Giekuchi Nakama, many, many years raising pigs, knew everything about raising pigs, but taking care of 550 pigs, you need young guys. You cannot, these guys, 50 years old, no, can't do it. So they got a couple young guys like Shinei Shimabukuro and Roshin Paul again, and a couple other young guys to help take care of the pigs. I volunteered, but they never picked me. So I got on with my life. I was going to a poultry convention in Washington State. And who did I happen to meet in San Francisco but the members of the pig brigade? See, at the last minute, a couple guys dropped out, a couple young guys. So Genbi Tonaki, Yoshiro Yamashiro pulled me aside and said, hey, you gotta kokua. You gotta cooperate. You gotta help us take the pigs Okinawa. Now, me, it's like I wanted to go because I hadn't seen my parents in like since the beginning, before the war. I hadn't heard nothing. I wanted to go. They said, look, you can be part of the pig brigade. Come with us, go Okinawa. So I call up my wife. Honey, I'm going to take the pigs Okinawa. What? Are you crazy? Who going to run the business? You can run the business and take care of 2 small kids. I only going to be gone a couple weeks. I owed my dear wife many, many special dinners out. But that's another story. So I said I was going to go. Now, all the guys, they got on the train. They're going to go up to Portland, Oregon to pick up the boat. Me, I had to stay behind in San Francisco, get my travel papers, and take my 7 shots. I had to take 7 shots all one time. I get on the midnight train, go up Portland from San Francisco. Even the porter look at me and go, oh, you, too much fever. No, go. I get there early in the morning. I catch a cab from the train station to pier number 4. And there is our ship, the USS John Owens. It's a Liberty ship. Huh? In addition to the crew and us 7 guys, there's 1,036 people and 550 pigs. They arrived by train. They're in these little shelters on board ship. So with a great prayer for a good voyage, at 5 p.m. on August 31st, 1948, we set sail from Portland, Oregon to Okinawa. 2 days out, we are hit with this tremendous storm. Oh, we all seasick. Oh, we in our cabin feeling miserable. And the crew come pounding on our door saying, waves have crashed over the side of the ship and smashed all the shelters. We go running on deck. We see pigs everywhere. We hear the squeals of the pigs, and some of them get washed over the side. All we can think of are, 30,000 people in Hawaii all went and donated to buy these pigs. And it's all going down the drain. Oh, we tie lifelines onto ourselves. We try to keep the pigs from getting washed over the side. Oh, we seasick. We exhausted. It's midnight. The boat's doing this, and we're going, oh. We leave it up to heaven's will, and we go to sleep. The next morning, we get up, we get on deck. Buta, pigs running everywhere. Some even fell down in the hole. We had to go down the hole, pick them up. But when we counted them, we found out we were only missing 2 pigs. The captain, he turned the boat around. We go back to Portland, Oregon. We think, who can help us rebuild these shelters? We start calling everybody. We arrive at the dock, and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is there with 100 guys. In 2.5 days, they rebuilt all the shelters. And once again, we head off to Okinawa. It's still kind of rough out there. The only guy with any spunk is Gembe Tonaki, but one guy cannot take care of 550 pigs. So me and Paul again, we figure, we're going to get our sea legs. We eat our lunch, we lose our lunch. We eat our dinner, we lose our dinner. We finally get our sea legs. We start helping take care of the pigs. Now the pigs become our number one priority. First thing we do, we get up in the morning, check the condition of the pigs. Then we have our breakfast. Then it's the pigs' turn to have their breakfast. Now, me and Paul again, we're down in the hole. And we have these lower ropes. We tie the ropes on one of these sacks of pig feed, and they raise them up to the deck. It's hot down there. We're sweating. And I look at Paul and I say, what did we ever do to deserve this? And then I remembered my dear wife. Never mind. Now, it's a well-known fact that what goes in must come out. 550 pigs can produce a frightening amount of poo. So we got to clean out all the shelters. The boat's doing this. I'm in there scrubbing out the shelters. The pigs get panicky. They run around. They knock me over. I'm now covered in pig poo. I was going to a convention. I didn't have time to buy work clothes. So I stripped down to my underwear. And by the time I scrub out the last shelter, time to feed the pigs all over again. We can only feed the pigs twice a day, because by then, we have to clean out the shelters again. I'm exhausted. We're done. I'm telling you, it's bliss taking a shower at the end of the day. But no matter how much detergent I use, no matter how much I scrub, my clothes still have that aroma of kalihi. Now, 2 weeks out, we run into the biggest threat we ever encountered. We come on deck, and all of a sudden, the klaxons are going off, alarm bells are going off. Someone had spotted a mine. See, at this time, Japanese mines were still floating around the Pacific. We missed the mine by 30 feet. After that, everybody, when you're not doing anything, you're on deck looking for mines. Nighttime, you cannot see a mine, the waves, the darkness. All we can do is pray. We did a lot of praying on that ship. But because of the storms, because of the mines, we had to slow way down. It was supposed to take us 2 weeks to go to Okinawa, but because we slowed down, it took us a lot longer. Third week, we're running out of water, running out of food, running out of pig feed. And I don't know, maybe the tossing and turning of the ship, some of the pigs gave birth to piglets, and some pigs and the piglets were weak, and they died. Oh, it was heartbreaking having to lower them over the side. Finally, September 28th, 1948, we pull into White Beach Harbor, Okinawa. All the waters are filled with U.S. ships. As we pull in, we're looking at the outline of Okinawa. We got tears in our eyes. We finally made it. But as we get closer, our tears of joy turn into tears of sorrow. Here it was 3 years after the war, and we saw what war had done to this beautiful tropical island. In our mind, when we left Okinawa, it was a tropical paradise, many big trees, and now when we look, there are big bald spots on the mountains with no trees. The whole place looks like an abandoned quarry, white, bleached, nothing there, broken war material, and no trees. A typhoon was coming, so we had to offload the pigs really quickly. So we got this ramp, and we went down from the ship down to the pier, and we started herding the pigs down. Then suddenly 6 pigs broke free, and they fell between the ship and the dock. Me and Paula Ganak, some people from Okinawan people, all jumped in the water. Even some U.S. Navy people jumped in the water to go and save the pigs. I looked at the Navy guy. I said, well, we brought them this far. We're not going to let them drown. All these people came down to see what these pigs from America look like. They get these pigs, big pigs, white hair and skin. The skin of like white people who've been out in the sun too long. Everyone looking at the pigs going, oh, everything in America is big and white, just like the American soldiers. Pigs were handed out by government lottery. And the deal was, if you get a pig, they have piglets, you give a male and a female to your neighbor. In 4 years, pig population was back up to pre-war levels, 140,000 pigs. I found my parents, I found my family. Oh, everyone was fine. Oh, I spent a long time with them. I embraced them and spent time with them. Then it was time for us to go back to Hawaii. Oh, we felt really good that we had set out, we accomplished what we had set out to do. Oh, when we got to the dock, our friends and family were there, and there were much to catch up on and many things to talk about. And many, many fine dinners out for my wife. Post-war memories of the people, elders in Okinawa remain strong even to this day. We found that out when we tried to go and collect funds for the Hawaii Okinawa Center. All the old people look at us and, oh, we remember you guys. You sent us clothing. You sent us pigs. You sent us goats. Now it's our turn to help you. We were so successful with the pigs that other people would send them goats, but that's another story. All the people who were with me on that voyage of aloha are now gone. I'm the last one here. I want to thank you for allowing me to share this story with all of you so this story can live on for many more generations. This story is an example of Yuimaru, Okinawan word meaning communities supporting each other, especially in times of need. We're all family. You take this story into your heart, and you too will be able to understand what it means to be Uchi Nanchu, a person of Okinawa.
Wow. Thank you, Alton. Another hand for Alton Chong. That was great. Thank you. So I want to take a moment to thank our ASL interpreters. We have Amy, Judith. Come on, Judith. Come on. Aren't they great? And we have... They are absolutely fantastic. I love to watch them. Sometimes I watch them more than, I'm listening, but I'm watching them. Yeah. I also want to thank our sound director, Ron Red. Thank you so much. And Malcolm Yon, where's Malcolm? You see him around here with that great big, huge, long, yeah. He's doing all the photography and has captured the young tellers and the old tellers and the in-between tellers and all the things going on. And he said when he started this, he didn't know anything about storytelling, but he kind of likes it now. So we're glad that you're here with us. Thank you. Louise O'Leary asked me to let you know, especially if you're from this area, that on First Fridays at the Mount Dora Public Library, they're having storytelling for grown-ups at 11 o'clock. So you could come in, have some stories, and then celebrate by having lunch. Okay, so I think the first one's coming up February 3rd because you already missed the one in January. So First Fridays at the library. Okay, thank you. Yeah, good for them. So when I graduated from college, my parents wanted me to get married. They didn't care who I married. They just wanted me to get married. The only thing they said was, we don't want you to marry anybody with a pierced ear. I thought that would be a pretty indication. That'd be a good person to get married to. I mean, they've already experienced pain and bought jewelry, so why not? When Jessica Robinson graduated from college, she was in love. He's about 8 feet tall, evidently. Pretty tall. Maybe not that tall, huh? He's a tall guy, much taller than she was. And when I was asking her, I said, what's the best advice? What's the worst advice you ever got? She said, well, this comes to mind. I'm in love with this fella, but he is much, much, much taller than me. And the first time my daddy met him, he was bringing me home, and he was taking off on a trip. And my daddy watched me reach up on my tippy toes to kiss him goodbye. And when the fella left, her father looked at her and said, don't you do that. He said, don't do that. Don't go to them. Make them bend down to you. Whoa. She said, I thought that was pretty good advice, so we'll have to find out if it was. Please welcome to the stage, Jessica Robinson. I wanted to call you your other name. I'm sorry. Thank you.
That was not the guy I married. Second time. It was a different time. It was a different place, though not so different from here and now. There was a kingdom, and in the kingdom there was a castle on a hill, and in the castle there was a royal family, the king and queen, princess and prince. And the royal family was beloved by the people of the kingdom. The princess, Amelia, she was 14 years old, practically a woman grown, especially according to her mother, who was constantly reminding her, you're practically a woman grown, start acting like a lady. And then there was the Prince Finn. He was 9 years old, but small for his age, and yet smart. So smart, smarter than the other kids his age, smarter than most of the grown-ups in the kingdom, but easy to overlook because of his size. Even his own father, the king, did it regularly. The prince and princess, brother and sister, as brothers and sisters do, fought, but as brothers and sisters do, they loved each other fiercely. They were each other's best friend. This day finds the Princess Amelia running through the halls of the castle in a very unladylike way. She pushes through her bedroom door, slams it behind her, throws herself on her bed, fighting back angry tears. She's still wrestling with her emotions when she hears a scratching sound, like a small animal running their nails on wood. A smile comes to her face. She pulls the bed away from the wall and taps 3 times. Tap, tap, tap on the wall. And the wall springs open. Well, really, just a small door in the wall, and out crawls Finn. They close the door behind him. They push the bed up against the wall, hiding any seams that someone might see in the wall. You see, Finn discovered the doors in almost every room in the castle, the tunnels that go throughout the castle a few years ago. And Amelia and Finn have kept this secret. So far as they know, they're the only ones who know about the tunnels. They used to explore them together all the time, but Amelia is grown. She doesn't fit through all of the small passageways, so she doesn't use them so much. But Finn spends a lot of free time there exploring and, if we're being honest, spying, listening in on conversations he shouldn't hear. Now Finn seats himself on the bed next to his sister, looks up at her and says, "What did you do this time?" Amelia looks down at her brother and says, "Why do you assume I did anything wrong?" And Finn, knowing, wisely asks, "Well, what is it that Mother is upset with you about?" And he's right. The queen, the mother, is upset with Amelia yet again. They've been fighting a lot lately. There was that time that Amelia dressed in pants and went out in public. And her mother, the queen, had to explain to her, princesses do not wear pants. There was that time Amelia smashed a teacup in etiquette class on purpose. Princesses do not have tempers. And then there was that time that Amelia challenged a soldier to a duel because he had made fun of Finn. Princesses don't fight. And this time, Amelia had asked her maid to cut her hair off to a pixie cut. And of course the maid had to tell the queen, and then the queen had to tell Amelia. Princesses don't have short hair. Amelia and Finn had had this conversation as many times as Amelia and the queen. And Finn said the same thing to her that he often did. Mother is worried that people won't accept you. And Amelia said the same thing that she often did. I just want to be the person I want to be. And then Finn said, and Mother is worried about the upcoming election. I should explain, this was a monarchy of sorts. There was a ruling royal family, a king and a queen. But it was also a democracy of sorts. They had elections every 10 years to decide, do we keep the royal family or get a new one? And the election was coming up in just over a year. So the king and queen were worried. They wanted to present their family to the people so that the people would get what they expected of a royal family. Well, Amelia and Finn had had this conversation, and so they didn't need to say more to each other, which was good because they both had their afternoon classes. And Amelia was excited about hers. She had self-defense. It was the one class, a physical class, that a princess was allowed to have. And in truth, Amelia had mastered self-defense by the time she was 6, but she was so good at fighting that her instructor had continued to call it self-defense so that she could continue to take the class. She'd mastered many forms of martial arts. She'd been taught secretly weapons. She was best at the sword and military tactics. The girl had a mind for a military leader. In fact, it was her dream one day that she would lead the army. But in a kingdom where she, one of the best fighters there was, had to wear a dress so big it was hard to move through the halls, and her brother, the prince, who hadn't mastered his fists, had to wear a sword, it seemed unlikely that she would ever be in charge of anything to do with fighting. But happily, she went off to her self-defense class. Finn, less happily, went off to his class. He was going to study history. And it's not that he minded history. He loved history and diplomacy and trade and economics and all of the other things he had to learn. It was his teacher that he minded. Roderick, the king's advisor, his teacher, Roderick could not be trusted. Finn knew this. Finn had overheard whispers, rumors, gossip, and he had gone to the king with those rumors, those whispers, this gossip. But the king, as he so often did, overlooked his son. told him to go back to his class. And so he did. He went to see Roderick despite not trusting the man. And he was right not to trust him. Roderick was indeed plotting against the royal family. You see, until the election, he was next in line for the throne, and he wanted to be king. And so he was planning to make that happen. The royal family went on tour every year, a listening tour, if you will, to find out what the people wanted from them. And on the eve of the tour, they threw a ball. All the local lords and ladies came, and on the night of the ball, we find the Princess Amelia having just completed being coiffed. She's got extra layers of feathers and lace and cloth so far out that no one could possibly get within feet of her. And her hair has been coiled and curled and pinned and ribboned up, and out, so that if she wants to look to the left or to the right, she needs to turn her whole body because her neck is busy holding this up. She's just finished having the last pin placed. The maid has just left when Finn charges into her room in such a state he's forgotten to close the door. Amelia wants to know why he's so upset, and he says he's finally heard. He's got evidence. Roderick is plotting. Amelia doesn't waste time. She trusts her brother. She grabs his hand. They run out into the hall, past the guard at their door, into the king and queen's chambers. The king and queen are almost completely dressed. The last few things that need to be done are the sashes chosen from the wall of sashes, the wall that lines, the sashes that line the wall next to the door, hanging on iron hooks. The king and queen see their children in a state of agitation and say, what is going on? And Finn tells his father that he knows that Roderick is plotting something, and his father, the king, goes to dismiss him, but Amelia says, no, listen to him. And he explains that he has overheard that when they go away in the carriage tomorrow, they will not be coming back. Roderick has paid off the guards. The king believes Finn, but it's too late. You see, Finn is not the only one who has ears. The guards at the door have overheard. They have warned Roderick, who is now coming in the room with his guards around him. As soon as Roderick walks in and the king realizes what's happening, he tells his children to run, and they do. Finn is the only one who is small enough to go under, around, and through the legs. He runs out into the hall. He runs down the hall. The guards take chase, two of them running after him. He gets to the end of the hall. He turns the corner. The guards get him there seconds later. They turn the corner, and Finn's gone. He's nowhere to be found. They start making their way back to the chamber where the king and queen are, and what's happened is when Finn ran, so did the king, so did the queen, so did Amelia. The king has charged with his sword out and is fighting one of the guards. Amelia, weaponless, has charged another guard and disarmed him, taking his sword. And the queen, to everyone's surprise, has tried to put herself between her daughter and the fight, but her skirts have gotten tangled and she's landed on the floor. Amelia and her father, fighting side by side, are winning. And they would have won if those two guards hadn't come into the room behind Amelia. They grab her, pull her back against that wall of sashes and hooks, and hang her to the wall by her hair. Pinned there, she is disarmed, and then the king is disarmed, and the king and queen are tied up. The door is closed, and Roderick now has to figure out how to salvage this plot, to get rid of the royal family with no one discovering what's happening. And the first thing that needs to be done is that the boy needs to be found. He sends all but 2 of the guards out into the castle to find the boy. And when the door closes behind those guards, Amelia hears a scratching sound on the wall, like a small animal's nails on wood. And for once, she is grateful for her ample skirts, for they hide much of the wall behind her. And she taps against the wall with her foot 3 times. Tap, tap, tap. And the wall springs open. Finn crawls out and closes the door behind him. He is hidden by her skirts. He takes his ever-present sword, hands it to his sister, for she knows what to do with it, and she takes the sword and frees herself from the wall, frees herself in more ways than one. From there, it is easy work for her to take on the guards while Finn frees his father and mother. Roderick is imprisoned, his guards found and imprisoned. The royal family is safe, and from that day forward, the princess can dress and wear her hair however she wants. And the queen needn't have worried about the people's reaction. They love the princess and prince as much as they ever have. And they love the king and queen even more for allowing the next generation the freedom to change.
Jessica Robinson, thank you. That's a brand new fairy tale mixed with so many other things. Thank you. That was wonderful, wonderful. Okay, you've been sitting for a little while. If you feel like you need to, can take a moment, stand up, stand up. And when you stand up, I want you to find somebody near you that you haven't met, maybe you don't know, and you can turn and introduce yourself and maybe give them some advice. Okay, that doesn't mean to leave. Now you can sit down. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Lots of good advice going around. Yeah, I know, they shouldn't have worn that shirt, but it's okay. Yeah, I know. Okay. Thank you. Woo! There is, I think, sitting maybe just right there, there's a group from Maine that has been coming quite a while, and this year they all had special hats made, I understand. And put your pretty cute hats on, ladies. And yeah, woo! So look at me and tell me, have you been coming more than 3 years? 3 years? Yeah? Some of you? And who made the hats? Oh, well, they are adorable. Next year, make a bunch. We'll put them in the store. Yeah, thank you. Welcome from Maine and everywhere else. That's a great. Okay. I don't want this evening to end. It's our last evening concert. And when I'm driving here from Panama City, I'm driving and I think, I know what happens. I know what happens. The whole weekend just goes by in a whoosh. And before I know it, I'm back in the car and I'm heading back to Panama City. But in my heart and in my mind, I'm listening and thinking again of all the stories we've heard. So it's a fulfilling experience. Okay. Other mothers. Are you okay? Let's clean that up. We'll figure this out. I'll take care of you. My mother. If you'd listened to what I had told you not to do, you wouldn't be in this mess. Different ways of being a mother, different ways of parenting. I'm not sure which one is best. I mean, I came out all right. Robin Schulte was asked the same question. Did you get any good advice? Did you get any bad advice we can pass on? And she wrote me and she said, well, I mulled this over and I mulled this over. And she said, I couldn't decide. I couldn't think of what to do. She said, I went to the local farmer's market, though, that weekend. And there was this booth. And there was a sign hanging over the booth and it said, Old Coots Giving Advice. I'm not kidding. And under it was a little sign that said, it's probably bad advice, but it's free. So she went in the booth. Yeah. She met David and Murray, the two old coots. And they evidently had quite a nice time. They gave up all kinds of advice. I'm not sure she could tell which was good and which was bad. But she said, the advice that stuck with her longest was when they said, best advice ever, she said, listen to the old people. Listen to the old people. She said that was such a good reminder of listening those with experience, like Ethnotech, Robert and Nancy, yeah, and hearing their stories. Because you know, when you're gone, there's a whole encyclopedia of happenings and experiences and stories gone with you if you haven't shared them. So Robin said, if I hadn't been asked by you, good advice, bad advice, she said, I probably wouldn't have gone into that little place and heard those old coots. I probably wouldn't have stopped. I'm so glad to have Robin Schulte back with us again. One of the best mamas I know, Robin Schulte.
After Linda Schuyler Ford's Fringe the other night, I know that they are not called old people. We call them elders. Well, I am a mama, and I have 3 children. My youngest is named Jack, and he's a all grown-up man now. But when he was little, he went through a phase where he loved magic. Sometimes that happens. If you're little, you could become captivated by that. Well, he did. It happened the Christmas he was 7. He'd gotten a little store-bought magic kit as a gift. And it had a few tricks and a little plastic magic wand. And he learned those tricks. He did little magic shows for us. And over time, he discovered a series of books about Harry Potter. And he read them all. And about that time, by the time he was 11, about that time, Universal Studios opened a new attraction called The Wizarding World of Harry Potter. And the tagline for that attraction was, where magic comes to life. So we had to go. I loaded up Jack and his older brother, Tyler, and a friend of theirs named Carl. The 3 boys and I drove down to Universal Studios, and magic did come to life for us that day. We got these chocolate frogs from Honeydukes. We browsed the wand selection at Ollivander's. We drank these big frothy mugs of butterbeer. We toured the Hogwarts castle, caught a glimpse of Harry and Ron and Hermione up in the upper balcony. We flew in a Quidditch match, and we narrowly escaped those Dementors. We had a fantastic day, and we were just leaving the park when we heard a voice calling out, "Hurry, hurry, hurry, ladies and gentlemen, step right this way. Time's a-wastin'. The show starts in 5 minutes." And we looked up, there was a little man standing there. He had one of those great big sandwich board signs, and on it were the words, "Magic Show." And there was a cartoon hand pointing down this alleyway to a little building set back from the rest of the park. It was a part of the park that I didn't remember seeing on our way through the wizarding world. Well, we were ushered down that alleyway and into that little yellow lit building. It was a small room with maybe 25 seats in it, a little theater. And at the front there was a stage, and on the stage there was one of those black magician's carts on wheels. Standing next to that cart was the magician. He was young and cool with his side-swept hair. This was not the David Copperfield that I grew up with. Well, after all those seats were filled, that magician and his assistant went to the side and they moved this rolling wall into place. And it blocked out all the noise and sounds of the park, and it blocked us in. And in the silence that followed, that magician began his spiel. He stood on the stage and he said, "Ladies and gentlemen, you all are in for a treat. For tonight, I'm going to demonstrate the levitator. It's the greatest levitation device ever invented. And the real treat is that after the show, you will all have a chance to purchase this trick on your way out." And suddenly I realized we'd been plopped right smack dab in the middle of an infomercial. That magician, he reached into his pocket and he pulled out a playing card. He held it up so we could see. It was just a plain, ordinary playing card. And then he held it in front of him and he gave it a flip. I'm going to move this so you all can see what I'm doing here. He gave it a flip. It looked like this. And that card, it levitated there in front of him. I'm going to do it again so you can see it. Hold on. And then he moved his hand to one side and then to the other, and that card went wherever his hand commanded. I'll do it one more time. I have to tell you, I'm pushing my luck up here, but I'm going to try it one more time. Here we go. So he flipped that card, and then he levitated it there in front of him. Well, that is the scariest moment for me as a storyteller on a stage. I just want you to know. Well, I felt Jack's hand on my arm, and he said, "I want that, Mom." He had brought his money. It was in his back pocket, $40. It was his Christmas money. And when the show ended and we stood up and were waiting to file out of that theater, people gathering up their things, there was Jack, and he was moving, shifting his weight from foot to foot, and he was saying, thinking really hard, and then he said, "I bet it's magnets. Tyler, don't you think it's probably magnets?" Well, his older brother, he would later go on to win third place at the physics division of the state science fair. But that had not happened yet. And he looked down at his little brother and he said, "I guess it could be magnets." And Jack said, "Or maybe it's a blower. I bet he's got a little blower tucked in his sleeve. And he probably uses that tuft of air to move it around." And then he thought better of it and he said, "That would be really hard to control." And then Carl said, "Well, I'm not sure what it is, but whatever it is, sure is cool." Now, as we exited the theater, they routed us right through the gift shop. And there on the shelves were the featured tricks in these little cellophane-wrapped packages. And up ahead on this carousel display, we saw it. It was as if a hole opened in the ceiling and light shone down. And off in the distance, we could hear, "Oh." In grand lettering, the box announced, "The Levitator." And there was this spinning card on the cover. And then on either side, there was a disembodied hand holding it, levitating it there in place. And across the bottom, it said, as the magician promised, "The greatest levitation device ever invented." We stopped at the counter. "How much is the Levitator?" There was a man perched on a stool back behind the register, and he looked there at his price sheet and he said, "The Levitator, it's $39.95. And again, I felt Jack tugging at my arm. And when I looked at him, he said, "I really, really want it, Mom." Now, here was my dilemma. I knew that whatever was in that box, it was not a floating card. And I knew that because I'm a grown-up. And a couple of science classes that I took back in high school, along with some life experience, have taught me that things don't float around on their own. But in Jack's 11-year-old brain, he was convinced there was something in that box that could defy gravity. And I knew I had a couple of choices here. I could say yes to this box of potential disappointment, or I could say no, and Jack would forever remember the time that Mom wouldn't let him get the Levitator, and he would dream for years to come about all the wonders contained in that box, and he might never know what it was. It wasn't going to end well for Jack or for me. So I tried to appease him. I said, "Listen, buddy, let's think about it. We'll go home, and if you still want it, we can order it. I'm sure they have a website. Listen, your birthday's coming up. You could ask for it for your birthday." Well, Jack, he lowered his head. He was clearly disappointed. But then Tyler reached over and put his arm around his little brother and pulled him in, and he said, "Hey, listen, I kind of want to know how that works too. So I'll tell you what. I'll go in on it with you if you want." Jack looked up, his face brightened, and he said, "Yeah, you know, if we each put in $20, it isn't so bad for either one of us." Tyler said, hold on, I did not say I had $20. And he put his hand in his pocket and he pulled out a crumpled up $5 bill and a couple of ones. Carl reached into his back pocket, took out his wallet, pulled out $4. And then those three boys looked at me. And 10 minutes later, as we made our way to the car, we were the proud owners of a cellophane-wrapped package that contained all the wonders of the Levitator. Now, as we got in the car, I said, "All right, boys, do not open that in the car. It has probably got some small parts. We could hear there was something shuttling back and forth in the box when we shook it. Those little parts could get lost down in that crack of that seat or down in the darkness on the floor. Leave it in the packaging." So after this hour-long drive home filled with speculation, we pulled into the driveway. And the doors opened and the boys tumbled out. They raced inside and they gathered around the kitchen, flipped the light on over the kitchen table, and then they tore that cellophane off the packaging and dumped the contents onto the table. inside there was this folded cardboard supply wallet, which they flipped open, and then they moved in closer and they examined it, looking for magnets or a motor, some other magical contraption. And what they found inside. Okay. So magicians have a rule. And it is that a magician never reveals his secrets. It is written right on the box. And I'm about to break that rule. So if you don't want to know, I do not want to ruin it for you. Now is the time to cover your ears. I'll let you know, Bobby, when I'm done. I'll just... because what Tyler and Jack and Carl found inside that box, in that folded wallet, were three things. First, there was a single blue-backed playing card. There was another card that had been cut in half and notched at either end. And stuck in one of those notches and wound around that half of a playing card was this thick, black, yarn-like thread. And there was an instructional DVD, which tells you how long ago this happened. Jack, when he saw that, he fell into one of the kitchen chairs. And then he looked up at me, his face reddening with disappointment. And he said, "It's thread, Mom." I wanted to scoop up that whole mess. And then he said, "We just paid $39.95 for some thread." And then Tyler reached down. He picked up that DVD and he flipped it over in his hand. And he said, "Come on, Bud, we may as well have a look at the DVD." He crossed to the living room. He put the DVD in the player. He flipped the TV on, and that magician's face appeared on the screen. The boys gathered around. And then that magician reached into his pocket. He pulled out a card. He held it in front of him. He gave it a flip. It levitated perfectly. Carl said, "Man, it really looks like that card is floating." Tyler said, "Yeah, you can't even see the thread. It's amazing." And then that magician went on to explain how to prepare the cards and perform the trick. And in no time, those three boys had tumbled back over to the table, and they were separating out those fine threads, and they were measuring and cutting and preparing their own cards and trying the trick themselves. And as it turns out, Jack had a real knack for that trick. He stood in the middle of the living room. And he said, "Hey, Mom, watch this." He held up his card, and then he held it in front of him, and he gave it a flip. I am pressing my luck, but we're going to do it again. And that card, why, it hovered perfectly there in front of him. He spun it again. Go on. He spun it again. And that card went wherever his hand commanded. The boys stopped and they said, "Jack, you're so good at that." And Jack snatched that card out of the air. He held it up and he said, "Yeah, you know, the levitator was not what I thought it was going to be, but it was still really cool." And that is the absolutely true story of Jack and the Levitator.
Oh, my word. I give you 18,000 extra stars for bravery. No way would I have tried that on stage. Not at all. Okay. Someone found some car keys. Fourth row, kind of in the middle. You better check if you're maybe. Of course, I don't see anybody in the fourth row in the middle. Maybe, maybe they're walking. I don't know. You lost your car or your car keys or. Oh, I thought you said they found some. Oh, okay. Did they levitate? No. Well, thank you for looking. All right. Well, I know I'm not supposed to do this as an MC, but we moved along pretty good, and I'm going to take one little second because that just reminded me. I'm bad about leaving my keys in the car, because then I don't lose them. And my husband can't stand it when I do that. Somebody's going to steal the car. I said, well, I don't think so. So I'm in church, and we've had this meeting, and it was real good, and I was inspired, and everybody was leaving, and I got up, and I went to get my car keys out of my purse, and they weren't there. And then I looked around the seat just like y'all did, and I couldn't find them. And then I went to the ladies' room thinking, well, it may. And then I thought, oh, I probably left them in the car. So by this time, everybody's gone. I go out the back door of the church, and that parking lot was empty. Yeah, someone had stolen my car. Well, I got on my phone, and I called 911, and I gave them the description of the car. I knew my license plate number. I knew everything. And that car and I had been together a long time. And so I'm on the phone with him, and finally I hang up, and I thought, I have to call Al, my husband. I put it off. Finally, I called him, and I said, I'm embarrassed to tell you this, but my car's been stolen. I'm here at the church, and my car's gone. There was a pause. You didn't drive your car, I dropped you off. I said, would you come pick me up? All right. So lost car keys are not new. Okay, so this Texan's up in New York, walks in a New York bar, starts talking to this New Yorker about how big Texas is. And he says, yep, I can get in my car at sun up, and I can drive all day right till sundown. I'm still in Texas. Who asked you? Let me finish my joke. Now, where was I? Okay. So he's told the New Yorker how far he could drive in Texas. He said, New Yorker looked at him. He said, yeah. He said, I used to have a car like that. I'm sorry. It would have been better if I hadn't been interrupted. Okay. So I asked Andy Hedges, good advice, bad advice. And he said, well, when I was 17 and he was just starting out to being a cowboy poet, he asked Texas cowboy poet J.B. Allen, what'd you think of my work? What'd you think? And J.B. Allen looked at him and he said, well, what I want you to do is I want you to study. I want you to learn, and I want you to memorize the works of the very, very best cowboy poets. And once you've done that, you won't ever have to ask anybody to critique your work. I thought that was pretty good advice. So I was getting to know Andy, and I'm so glad he's here because I've thoroughly enjoyed him. And I asked him, I said, Andy, have you lived in Texas all your life? And he said, not yet. So I absolutely think this guy is wonderful. Please welcome to the stage Andy Hedges.
No Texan ever asks you where you're from. In fact, they say he views such questions as but idle chatter, because if you're from Texas, you'll tell him anyways. And if you're not, well, it doesn't really matter. I'm just kidding. I wasn't planning to start with that. I just couldn't resist. Old-timers in the neighborhood would bandy words on who was good at puncher jobs for hours on end when I was just a kid. They'd get wall-eyed and paw and ball and swear, by damn, I knowed them all. If and Josh wasn't the best trail herder, I'll eat my beaver lid. Well, down and dirty, I'm the dealer. Old Bob Seward's best damn peeler ever snapped a bronc out. Just give me one he broke. Give, you say? That's what I heard. You're right that Bob's a tough old bird, but better practice cactus picking and work on your spur stroke. You can't stay astride of one of his'n. When he pops the plug and goes to fizzing, it'll be adios, caballo, and howdy to the nurse. They'd move from bickering bronc peelers to rawhide hands and fancy healers. Red Carlin, young Mac Philbrick, they'd testify and curse. They'd analyze Link Taylor's cutting. His bag splitting away a calf D-nuttin's pure asking for trouble. Besides, he don't cut by the sign. You cut your calves by the moon? Keep on night branding, pretty soon the sheriff will change your address and you'll be twisting hair and twine. On they'd rave and postulate about who was fair and who was great, and I'd sit in the hot dust and never say a word. But in their jousting verbal battle amongst the barbs and boast and prattle, I'd sit in youthful judgment as they sorted out the herd, so I came early to understand the names of every good top hand in my scope of country from hearing tough hands talk. But when they'd crow and blow and boast, the one name that came up the most was a wily wild horse runner they simply called Old Proc. You boys start 'em, I'll stop 'em, old Proc would say. Then he'd cut 'em off at some escape route and wheel and bring 'em in. Proc thinks horse, I'd heard them say. And finally there came the day that I would get to meet this fabled mounted paladin. My mother's father, John McKay, up and said one fine spring day while I was staying with them, Minnie, get your bonnet. Let's go up by Castle Rock and see some country and visit Proc. If you're late, I'll be upset. You can bet your life upon it. He never paused for her reply, and my grandma fussed around, and I asked Grandpa, is that the wild horse man? That's him, my grandpa said. And as we ricocheted and bounced our way in a tobacco-stained green Chevrolet, my grandpa told Proc stories and chewed and spit and sped. From all the stories Grandpa told me, I felt like an authority on this Ranahan Joe Proctor who came north with Texas cattle. His wife had been the J.O. cook, and Proc had sparked and won and took her for his bride. And they fought and won the Homestead battle. I couldn't wait to meet Mr. Proc, whose peers all praised his ways with stock. But when his calloused hand gripped mine, surprise hit me in waves. Those old-time cowboys who cut no slack deemed it unimportant that Proc was black. And it wasn't worth a mention that Joe Proctor's folks were slaves. When I was a cowboy out on the stormy plains. When I was a cowboy out on the stormy plains. The only hell I ever raised, he's pulling on my bridle reins. Come a tie-ya yippee, come a tie-ya yippee-yay. Out on the cow trail, the dusty billows rise. Out on the cow trail, the dusty billows rise. We're 50 miles from water, and the grass is scorched and dry. Come a tie-ya yippee, come a tie-ya yippee-yay. I've been where the lightning tangled in my eyes. I've been where the lightning tangled in my eyes. I heard the trail boss holler, I hope you ain't afraid to die. Come a tie-ya yippee, come a tie-ya yippee-yay. It's well I work for wages, boys, I get my pay in gold. It's well I work for wages, boys, I get my pay in gold. I'm bound to follow the longhorn cow until I am too old. Come a tie-ya yippee, come a tie-ya yippee-yay. Devil rode a nightmare, you ought to hear him moan. Devil rode a nightmare, you ought to hear him moan. We're out in the sunshine, out in the heat and cold. Come a tie-ya yippee, come a tie-ya yippee-yay. So come all you good cowboys, and don't you wanna go? Come all you good cowboys, and don't you wanna go? Just whooping up the cattle out in the heat and cold. Come a tie-ya yippee, come a tie-ya yippee-yay. Come a tie-ya yippee, come a tie-ya yippee-yay. Oh, thank you so much. That poem was based on true stories written by my friend Wallace McCrae from Forsyth, Montana, from his childhood. And Joe Proctor was recently inducted into the Montana Cowboy Hall of Fame. And that's an old-time song, old-time cowboy song with a little bit of lead belly mixed in. I was really fortunate as a young man to kind of fall in with some Texas cowboy poets back out there in West Texas, in the Panhandle where I'm from. And I carry their words with me often when I'm on stage. And some of those guys who really mentored me and
taught me about cowboy poetry have passed on. One of those was a man named Larry McWhorter. And this is a story from Larry. Larry grew up in the panhandle of Texas. His father was a famous fiddle player named Frankie McWhorter, who played fiddle with Bob Wills and the Texas Playboys. And this poem is a nice picture of what it's like to be a West Texas cowpuncher. I almost put my rope on her once, but then I thought it through. I'd had my day in the sun long ago, so I left her for someone like you. Sounds to me like she run you off, I said to the silver-haired man. Why, there ain't a cow brood anywhere too much for a hand worth of sand. We were talking about the old red cow, a legend round these parts, and it's been said she'd put fear and dread in the punchiest cowboys' hearts. An old barren cow who'd escaped all the drives 'cause she was big, mean, and clever. The manager said she was 12 years old. The old men said she'd been there forever. Now, legends don't scare a boy of 19 who thinks he's the pride of the nation, and I'm thinking, if I pin this old cow, I'll sure have a good reputation. Where do I find this renegade beast, this scarlet scourge of the prairie? Well, I'll lead the hussy through the bunkhouse door, and you'll think she was raised on a dairy. I'll bring her in, and she'll bear a grin, for she'll know that she's had her licking, for I'm a hand from the faraway land where the hoot owls romance the chickens. Well, a gleam appeared in the old man's eye, and he was grinning a little too much. I'll tell you where the red cow lives, and while you're gone, I'll carve you a crutch. Oh, and give me your address before you leave. You'll want me to write your folks. Well, I left him there to amuse himself. I didn't care for his little jokes. The Sabbath sun caught me riding old Gus, sneaking through the brush like a ghost, until we come to the mouth of the canyon where that outlaw had been seen the most. We come up on an old dirt tank about halfway up that draw, and standing there for her morning drink was the biggest cow I ever saw. Her horns weren't tipped, and she wore no brand, and her ears were long and slick. And I thought of a big old rhinoceros I'd seen in a Tarzan flick. Well, I knew if I showed myself to her now back at the canyon she'd go, so I eased up high so I could drive her on down and catch her in the big flat below. I cinched up a notch, shook out a loop, pulled my horn knot tight, and I eased old Gus to the edge of the brush and showed myself ready to fight. Well, she jerked up her head when we come in the clear, and a startled look filled her eyes. I had to grin, for my little ruse caught the wily red cow by surprise. She's scared and confused with no place to hide. I've wrecked her psyche, I think. But she stood there, sized up her latest of pests, and then calmly went back to her drink. Well, we sat there and stared at each other a while till the red cow had drunk her fill. Then she stretched out her back and ever so slowly started walking towards me up the hill. Her stride betrayed no fear at all. It's like she'd been through this before. About then, I started to doubt my own smarts, and I pondered the red cow's lore. Her slow, steady walk turned into a trot, and her mouth began to foam. And the closer she got, the more that I wished that me and old Gus had stayed home. The walls of that canyon somehow looked steeper, and it looked a lot narrower, too. My perception had changed on a whole lot of things, and my brashness I started to rue. I'd made the brag back at the ranch about the worth of a man who would balk. Yeah, I found myself falling victim to my own yapping tongue's foolish talk. A moment of truth was on me now, and my smarts was fighting my pride, and that cow was locked in on me and old Gus. And then my outlook was rectified. The boss hadn't sent me out here on this wildcat venture of such. If she don't bother him, then why should she me? Hell, one old red cow don't eat much. 50 feet between me and the cow, another thought entered my mind. There were many like me, but this cow that I faced was one of the last of her kind. Who was I to alter her fate? Her freedom she'd fought long to keep. Far be it from me to ruin her life. Oh, I could pin her. But then could I sleep? Well, I cringed at the thought of a grinning old man and the scorn I'd see in his eye, but I knew I was right, so I tipped my hat as the famous red cow trotted by. The bunkhouse door was open wide, with nothing but a stool and a pail sitting inside. But the scorn I expected he never showed. He said, "Son, I know just how you feel. You ain't the first to change his mind after doubting the red cow's lore. Few boys your age have dealt with her kind, but on her coup stick, you're just one more. There comes a time in every man's life when he's forced to face his limitation. Now you feel like a fraud, but your judgment was sound. So, son, you ain't no imitation. Oh, you talked a lot, but you took your shot, which is more than many have done. She force-fed you crow, but that taste we all know. So welcome to the humbled ranks, son." Well, the years have gone by, and I reckon she's died. I know I never saw her again. But with all my heart, I hope that old girl never saw the inside of a pen. And though she's gone, her legend lives on, and I'm proud to be part of her lore, for the times have changed and a brute of her kind is rarely seen anymore. Young sprouts now ask me about the cow. Tight-throated, I think of that day. I recall my old friend and what he told me back then, and I grin at these pups and I say, I almost put my rope on her once, but then I thought it through. Oh, y'all are so much fun to perform for. Such a great audience. I got one more piece for you, and I just want to say what a thrill it's been to be here at the Florida Storytelling Festival and share the stage with all these wonderful folks. Is it cold enough to wear long johns in Florida? Okay. This is a song I wrote with my friend and mentor and hero, Mr. Waddy Mitchell, along with some important help from my wife. Well, it's knee-high in South Bitter Creek, and I'm told it's time for bath. I was soaked up and bent over and a scrubbing on my calves, when I hear a bunch of giggling from a gaggle of Girl Scouts, single file on the trail, not sure what I'm about. Well, there I stood as they marched by, and me with no robe to don, and things could have got explicit, except I had my long johns on. Well, that could have been embarrassing, could have been plain wrong. My long johns needed washing, or I mightn't have had them on. My long johns on, my long johns on, something that I always make sure to have on. It ain't as if they thought I was doing something wrong. No, it's all good, I had my long johns on, my long johns on, my long johns on. Without them, this would be a different song. Thank gosh they started smelling rough and strong, as it's so good I had my long johns on. He's having us a picnic over there at McDougal Lake, eating ham and sweet potatoes and some German chocolate cake. Well, we brought along some swimsuits, so we hid and put them on. When I dove off this big rock, my suit slipped and it was gone. Now I ain't no deep sea diver, where they sunk, they'll always lay. Luckily I had my long johns on, which saved saved our picnic day. Well, that could have been embarrassing, could have been plain wrong. My long johns needed washing, or I mightn't have had them on. My long johns on, my long johns on, something you should always make sure to have on. It ain't as if they saw me in a purple thong. No, it's all good, I had my long johns on, my long johns on, my long johns on. Without them, this would be a different song. Thank gosh they started smelling rough and strong. Yes, it's all good, I had my long johns on. About this point in the song, I do like to apologize if you get this little ditty stuck in your head for the next few days. I know how annoying that can be. You know, you can't get a song out of your head, but there is one remedy for that, and some of you probably know this, but if you ever get a song stuck in your head and you're just really sick of it, the thing to do is go listen to a recording of that song. So it might be a good idea to grab a CD on the way out of the tent tonight, just in case. Well, we'd been to see Tom Selleck at the moving picture show, then went back to her apartment where things didn't happen slow. She excused herself to freshen up. I stripped down while she was gone. She returned and screamed until she saw that I had my long johns on. Well, that could have been embarrassing, could have been plain wrong. My long johns were just fresh washed, or I mightn't have had them on. My long johns on, my long johns on. I'm lucky that I always seem to have them on. I wasn't inappropriate or doing wrong. No, it's so good I had my long johns on, my long johns on, my long johns on. How often do you hear about them in a song? Under outer garments is where they belong. Yes, it's so good I had my long johns on. Yes, it's so good I had my long johns on. It's all good, I had my long johns on. Thank you so much, folks. Thank you.
It's Texas, what can I tell you? You know. You guys are the best audience ever, and we're so glad you chose to be here tonight. Yeah. Could we have everybody, all our tellers back on stage? Come on, come on, come on. One more hand. There's a story slam coming up after this. I guess they'll give us a few minutes to, freshen up and change our long johns. And y'all come back for the slam. That should be lots of fun. Thank you for being here tonight. We love you. See you tomorrow morning for Stories from the Heart.